Welcome back to Nailing Negative Numbers Now. If you're watching this video, that means you have totally crushed part one, which was adding rational numbers. Today, we're going to be focusing on subtracting rational numbers. Your homework is still the same. Those reminders are still the same. And the most important one is the one I'm going to remind you about right now. Don't forget to whisper, "I can do this." And remember that you can. All right, so here's a quick reminder, you guys, that positive and negative numbers are opposites of one another. So if I have a positive 5, the opposite of that is negative 5. If I have a positive 100, the opposite of that is negative 100. When we're talking about our number lines, when we move to the right, those numbers are increasing. When we move to the left, those numbers are decreasing. All right, so now that we've got our review out of the way, let's jump into the nitty-gritty of this video. Because we're going to be focusing on subtracting rational numbers in this video, there's a couple things that I want to bring to the forefront of your mind. We're still going to be talking about climbing, first of all, right? So just a reminder, when we're going up, that's an increase. When we're going down, that is a decrease. But here's the thing. Today, we're going to be given the beginning elevation and the final elevation. We're going to use those two numbers to help us find the change, okay? We're going to find the change by subtracting the final and the beginning. All right, y'all, let's get started. So let's say that we start at 400 feet, okay? 400 feet above sea level. And our final elevation is 900 feet. Our final elevation is 900 feet. So we will be right here in the middle because I'm counting by 200s here. So what I want to do now is I want to calculate what was the change. I'm going to do that by subtracting. So I'm going to take my final and subtract my beginning. All right, so when I subtract, I get a positive 500. Doesn't that make sense? The fact that both of our arrows are pointing upward lets me know that my change was positive. Remember what I told you. The way we calculate our change is by taking our final, which in this case was negative 800, and subtracting our beginning, which was 400. Okay, so now remember, guys, whenever we're subtracting, what direction are we going? In this case, we're going down. We're going down. All right, so this is going to be negative 1200. So what does that mean? That means our elevation decreased by 1200 feet. And we can also see this right here. Okay, so from 400 to 0 is negative 400, right? And then from 0 to negative 800 is negative 800. Once we combine those totals, right, we get that negative 1200 feet drop, the same thing that we got here at the top. All right, let's look at another example. This time we're starting at negative 200 feet, and we're going to end up at positive 400 feet. Okay, we're going to start at negative 200 and we're going to end up at positive 400. So remember what we do. We take our final and we're going to subtract our beginning. Okay, so now let's think about this. Remember at the beginning of this lesson and the previous one, we talked about opposites, right? So let's think about this in terms of opposites. So this subtraction tells us that we're going to go to the left, okay? But then this second subtraction, right, it voids that. Now we have to go the opposite direction, okay? We have to go the opposite direction. So this actually becomes 400 plus 200, okay? And what is that? That's 600. That means there was a positive 600 change in elevation. And let's verify this, okay? So from negative 200 to 0 was a positive 200, right? And then from 0 to 400 was a positive 400. All right, when we total up that change, we're going to still get the positive 600. Let's keep working. For this one, we're going to start again at negative 200. And then we're going to drop to negative 800. So we should know by the fact that both of our arrows are pointing down is that we have a drop in elevation, right? So our elevation decreased, okay? So our change should be negative. Let's take our final elevation and let's subtract our beginning elevation. All right, so we just learned now that these two negatives being side by side cancel each other out, okay? The first one tells us to go left. The second one tells us to go right. So we're going to end up with negative 800 plus 200. Let's think about that. Negative 800 plus 200, that would be negative 600. Okay, so now it should make sense that our elevation is going to be negative because both of our arrows are pointing down. So let's look at our number line and allow it to help us reason about what's happening here. So if I go from negative 200 to negative 400, that's negative 200, right? I'm going to do this in a different color so we don't get confused. Negative 200 to negative 400 is a drop in 200. The negative 400 to negative 800 is a drop in negative 400, right? It's a drop in 400. So guess what? If I total that up, I'm going to get negative 600, which is the same thing that we got here. So all I'm doing here is using the number line, our vertical number line, to reinforce what we're doing here with our equation. Okay, let's look at another one just to make sure we got it. All right, so this time what we're going to do is we're going to start at negative 800. All right, and we're going to end up at positive 800. Okay, that arrow's a little crooked. Don't pay any attention to that. All right, so let's take our final, which is our 800, and let's subtract our beginning. All right, so we got another one of those negative situations again. So what did we learn about this? The first one tells us to go left. That second one says, take it back to the right. Okay, so this becomes 800 plus 800, which is 1,600 or 1,600. Now we can confirm this using our number line. From negative 800 to 0 is positive 800, right? Then from 0 to positive 800 is another positive 800. When I total this up, I got 1,600, okay? A positive change in elevation. All right, guys, just that quickly, we've reached the end of video number 2. But you're not done yet. We got to test our knowledge. Don't you go anywhere. Click over to the next screen and let's see what you've learned. I hope you nailed it.